This is Anthony Pascal.
And this is Laurie Elster, and this is the All Access Star Trek podcast. Today, it's very exciting because we get to review the premiere episode of a brand new Star Trek show. I'm excited about that.
Wow. That hasn't happened in a while.
I know. Who knew? It's so exciting. So before we do that, there are just a couple of small things. I mean, there's so much Starfleet Academy news and interviews and stuff on the site right now that you should go look at because we've worked really hard on it. No, that's not
right.
Why. Well, that's not why, because it's very entertaining. That's why.
Well, both things can be true, and there's more to come. There's your interview with all the cadets that's going to show up on Friday at some point after this podcast launches, and you had a good interview with Tunde that will probably get out over the weekend. You even talked to Michelle Hurts. We'll get to that eventually.
That won't be this weekend because she didn't talk about Starfleet Academy. So
she's not in it, but she was there. That was nice.
She did solve an ancient mystery for me.
Oh.
Of was it her who rollerbladed past my friend's apartment like 20-something years ago? More than that.
We were all thinking
Everybody
about
wanted to know, but the answer was yes. That was the answer. That was
amazing. There's it's the Academy news is dominating the news. You know, the reviews are coming out, like Variety liked it. The Rotten Tomatoes score is like close to 90%, but when you look just at the kind of the top critics of the big outlets, it's getting really good reviews.
Yeah, people are liking it. I mean, it's separate from the angry people who just show up to say it sucks, even though they haven't seen it. But
yeah. You know what I like is that, like, I've seen, you know, for months we've all whenever we post something, someone will come in and say Star Trek 90210. And you know, when we posted our review, someone did that because they're like, "Ooh, look, I'm clever." And like everyone piled on, they're like, "Obviously you didn't watch it."
Right.
You know, and he deleted it because people are now realizing, you know what? We don't need that kind of, you know, drive-by snarkiness. Sure, there's things to say about the show, and we're just about to do that. But, you know, it's out there now, and judge it for what it is. Anyway.
Right. Feel free to criticize. Like, legitimately, if you look at it and you don't like it or you have issues, great. Sure, fine. But the whole just, I'm going to be mad and come tell you why I'm mad and why you shouldn't like something is bad. In fact, I will say I turned around an internet troll a couple of days ago. Like, the person started out saying they should just do what they did in the 90s instead of this. And they were being so rude and nasty. I feel like it was a dude, so I'm going to say he. And by the end, he apologized for his tone and said he shouldn't have been like that. And then said, wow, the way that you talked about the burn made me think about it differently. And maybe that does make sense. What do you think of that?
You know, miracles can happen. People on the internet, well, I think, you know, there is a thing of it's just easy to scream out into the void, but sometimes people like forget, you know, and then they, you know, realize, wait, I'm supposed to be a human being.
That's what happened because I wasn't rude to that person. I just was calm and gentle, but like, what are you talking about? And they completely like apologized, turned it around, said nice things, whatever. Thanked me in the end, by the way.
You know, by the way, the premiere of Academy is available for free on YouTube, which we predicted was going to happen.
Yep.
Of course, the haters all came out and said this proves that they don't like that the show's terrible
because they want more people to see it.
Yeah, I'm not sure the logic, you know, but that shows you how, again, criticize the show, watch it and criticize it, but don't just randomly decide something's terrible and then everything becomes proof of your thesis.
Right.
It's also for free on Pluto, which again, they've, you know, Paramount, you know, these are kind of standard Paramount Plus tactics.
Yeah.
But Pluto's also doing kind of this extra thing where they've created a special Star Trek category and they launched an Enterprise channel. So now there's 5 Star Trek channels on Pluto, which is pretty cool. The only non-Academy news that's out there is we just want to remind people, if you're planning on going to the 60th anniversary convention, STLV in Vegas in August, they're going to sell out of tickets well before August. They kind of did sell out, I think, last weekend, and then suddenly some more general admission tickets were available. Some packages are already sold out. So, you know, get your tickets. And they're announcing new people. They're announcing Academy people.
Yeah, I saw Bella Shepherd just got added.
It looks like there's going to be an Enterprise reunion. The 2 question marks are Jolene and Scott.
Is Linda going to be there?
Yeah, Linda's going to be there. All the Enterprise boys. So Jolene is probably the last holdout. Scott kind of already committed to it on stage, So,
oh right, yeah, he said it last year.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. But there's going to be all the living original series actors are going to be there, and much more. And we'll be there doing panels and all sorts of stuff. And you'll probably do some moderating.
Doing some moderating, doing some panels, drinking some cocktails.
We'll have the landing party the Tuesday before with Larry, the whole shebang.
Yep.
All right. Any other news, or should we just talk about this whole premiere thing?
Let's talk about the whole premiere thing.
Talk in detail, at least, about the series premiere of Starfleet Academy.
Also known as These Kids Today. I have to say, nobody likes the title but me. I actually like it.
They're trying to be cute with the titles, whatever. It's that. I guess that's their thing.
Well, I would like cute, but they go Latin with a bunch of them, which we've talked about already, and that I just don't retain the names, and it's not fun. But These Kids Today is something I like to say as in a joking way. These kids today. So I was like, actually, that's fine. Like
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously what they're going for. Anyway, we're obsessing over the least important thing, which is this is the first series premiere since 2022. When did Strange New Worlds debut? 2021?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. It's all a blur. But yes, and it's also the first episode of a new live action Trek series that the only one we might be getting for a while. Like the magnitude of that, the first time I sat down to watch it, I was like, okay, first episode, brand new series. No other new series are on the horizon right now. Yeah.
Although in 1987, that was no different. You weren't thinking, ooh, I wonder what the next show is. Because, it was the next generation was just the next generation.
Right. But there was magnitude there as well. So same thing. Like it's like when Discovery came on, it was a, big deal. Whereas some of those other shows, we were getting this pile on.
Exactly. It's a significant moment. I feel like, Alex knows how important this show is. You could tell by the way he talks about the show. And I feel that, the way that this show comes across just at a high level, one of the interesting things is it's a Discovery spinoff at the crudest level because it's set in the same kind of era.
And shares some characters.
Yeah. And, like everyone who works on it has worked on Discovery practically.
The credits are full of very familiar names.
Yeah. I mean, Michelle Paradise, everyone, all the department heads, Jeff Russo. And you certainly see it in the show, the dots and the whatevers, but it doesn't really feel like Discovery.
It doesn't.
It feels like a whole new thing. I liked Discovery at times, and I feel like this is borrowing the best of Discovery, the best of Strange New Worlds, because there's kind of the episodic structure. They're taking stuff from other TV shows. I think a lot of it comes. I don't know if you ever watched The Magicians.
No, I watched The Librarians. Does that count?
No. So Noga Landau, who Alex is working with on this show as a co-showrunner, she worked on The Magicians. It's a smart show about young people at what's essentially a graduate school of magicians.
Oh, right? Then she's the perfect person for this.
Yeah, so it's kind of like Hogwarts, except that it's not kids, it's 20-somethings.
Right.
Yeah, that's why he brought her in, obviously. And she'd worked on some other young shows like Nancy Drew and stuff like that. So it's borrowing from that and from some other Star Trek stuff. So I feel like this is familiar but new at the same time. I thought that, just a high level, I thought it was a very strong series premiere, which are always hard to do.
I agree. I thought we got great introductions to each character, which is really important. And, I always think of Deep Space Nine because it had such strong introductions. Every character that walked in, you fully got a sense of who they were in those first few minutes. And I think this show did a great job, this pilot, with letting us know that. And I also think they balanced a lot of different tones deftly, so that's a big deal. And the story, it's kind of simple. Like if you just wanted to give a straight plot description, you could do it in a sentence or two. But I feel like the more you watch it, You see how the stories are weaving into each other, and you see the weight of the main story reflected in some of the main characters that are involved in it. Like, the more I watch scenes, the more I see, oh, right, it's because of this, or they're reacting from this. So I think the key to a Star Trek series, one of the keys is successful rewatching.
Right.
And they got it.
Yeah, I've watched it, I guess, 3 or 4 times at this point, and I'll probably be watching it again when we do kind of our Easter eggy stuff. And yeah, there's plenty here to enjoy. It's big and small, so that
Yes.
it's on a grand scale. The ship is ridiculously huge, of course, but it's a very personal story about this kid who's lost his mom and wants to find her. A Holly Hunter full of regrets.
Yes.
Those are just very personal stories. But then, Vance comes in with his bigger story, which is we screwed up during the burn. And Holly's kind of the embodiment of that. And when you look at the flashback scene, right? So when she sentences, it's like the pivotal scene, right? It's the origin story. She actually says, like, I take pleasure in this.
Well, in sentencing him, not her, but
it just everyone went to a dark place during the burn, even her. And
yeah.
I think that's why she quit, and went off to the cute school on Bajor, which didn't seem to have any Bajoran children in it, by the way. I thought that was weird.
No, it had some other little people.
There was like a little Orion, and no, they were all adorable. And Caleb would have had a great time if he followed her there. But and Vance was contrite. He's like, yeah, we screwed up in a lot of ways,
and he admitted he was wrong too, because she said to him, you disagreed with me at the time, and he's like, I agree with you now. Like, they both feel such regret for their actions, and I'm wondering if this is going to be a theme throughout the show, the harshness of how they dealt with immediate post-burn life, and how to find that softening.
Well, Vance was pretty clear about it, that they are on cleanup duty, as it were, and that she's being recruited because she is one of the few people, because she's old enough, she's 400 and something, that she remembers the good old days. Although not the good old days we remember. Like, she remembers, I guess, doing the math, the 28th century or the 29th century. When was the U.S. relativity flying around? That was the 29th century, wasn't it? Maybe she knew those guys.
Oh, maybe.
They could show up. Anyway, side note.
Right, or Braxton.
Braxton, yeah, well, yeah. He was from that. And, of course, Daniels and stuff. But I don't know if they're going to ever delve into that. Oh, no, I hope
they don't. They should. There's no need to get into that stuff. I think they have so much to work with here, and they're doing a really good job of working with it. So you don't need to bring in all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I think they have stories to tell that are really good stories.
Yeah, sure. They're obviously, you've got the Kirk Pavilion and all, they are at least throwing mentions of things out there just so you notice them, whether or not they're important or not. There's almost layers of Easter eggs. So, like, just, we're jumping all over the place, but there's the scene when we meet the doctor again, right? So the kids get their checkup from the doctor, and it's the doctor from Voyager, and he gives his line. He says the line, which is, or if you remember it, like, which was the medical tricorder,
right?
Which was, which he said to Harry Kim in Caretaker. But then the lung maggots was also a Voyager reference.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a thing that, like, Neelix mentioned once or something. It was like like deeper cut. And then he says, don't be a baby, which again was also from Voyager when Tom Paris, remember, in author Tom Paris programmed his own version of the EMH. That version said, don't be a baby. And when you talked to Bob, he said he put something in there, and now I'm wondering which of those three things was it?
I believe he meant medical tricorder.
Probably.
I believe that's what he's talking about, because that's what he would remember.
Right.
Like, I feel like a I didn't go back to check, so I didn't catch the others, and I'm a big Voyager fan. But as soon as he said medical tricorder, I was like, I remembered exactly that line.
These are the best kind of Easter eggs, the kind you really need to kind of look for. And often you don't notice until someone else points them out to you. So I admit I didn't notice all three of those myself until someone said, oh, that, and that's fun. So they're not being too in your face. Getting back to the themes, the only in your face thing I thought they did was the mention of child separation. Right. Which was you always have to think, when was this being written? Right.
Right.
So,
of course.
Remember with Discovery was being written during the 2016 campaign. So Takuvma was a Trump rally, basically.
No. And then during COVID, and we got a whole really challenging season about that.
So I guess people were remembering, even though this was probably written after the first Trump administration, child separation was still a big deal, and they mentioned it a couple times. And I felt like we would have got there on our own without them having to say it. But obviously, the show has an opinion, I guess, and they are doing modern allegories. I mean, the whole Vance, we need to fix the kids need to fix our problems is clearly global warming and everything else that our generation and the older generation have bestowed upon Gen Z.
Lucky kids.
Good luck with that, kids.
So Alex has talked about his son, who must be, I'm guessing, around the same age, maybe a little younger than my kids.
Yeah.
Because it's that same generation and it's the same things that they're facing.
And you could see that in this show. I mean, Ake, I feel, is Alex. Part of me feels like he's, because, the whole talk at the end about her, I mean, so Caleb is sort of a surrogate son for her because her son died during the burn. They have this kind of weird relationship. And I thought it was nice that Caleb said, I'm not him, because she's talking about her dead son. And he's like, don't turn me into your dead son,
right.
Which was smart. But obviously she's a very nurturing person and she has regrets about how she handled things with her kids. So, we talk a lot about how this show's appealing to a YA, but I think this show appeals to parents as well, because there's some of the issues that they're dealing with.
I would say like a good YA show kind of does, because it's the adults looking at the kids looking at the adults, everybody looking at each other. There's a lot going on there, and it's fertile ground.
The adults were a bigger part of the show than one might think coming into everyone, the cliche of the show is it's going to be the OC, or people called it Starfleet 90210. It's just not that. It isn't.
Right. It's like, remember all the shows we've seen in our lives with kids or teenagers where there really are just no parents around at all.
Right.
You're like, how is nobody checking on these children?
Right.
Or teens or anything. They can just do whatever I remember a great example is Riverdale. They did have parents on Riverdale and they were all characters and they brought in some really good actors. But honestly, those kids were they had room to go have sex wherever they wanted and be gone from school as long as they wanted.
Right.
And they were in high school.
Yeah. Think of Buffy. There was a few, Armin Shimmerman, but there is adult supervision, but they figured out how to have the kids save the day, kind of. I thought it was smart to save kind of a small situation where they had to save Commander Thok, right? She was injured, but it was a simple thing. She was injured. So, yeah, by the way, this is what, I remember last week, we kept on referring to characters as their actor names. So,
yes, we're going to try not to do that.
We're trying not to do that. So, Jaden Cragg, who's the young Klingon cadet, wants to be a doctor, which is interesting. Yeah. And so he was kind of put on the spot to save Commander Thok.
I want to talk about that whole scene because there was a lot going on that was very, very important, which was you had this disaster, which through, they get up and they're hearing buzzing in their ears and all this stuff. And then my secret hero of the day, which is Genesis, I keep seeing stuff in her and I don't see people talking about her much, but she's the one who immediately was like, we have to get that stuff off of her because she sees that something's fallen on Laura Thok. And then the others are kind of either fighting or disagreeing, and she's the one who like pulls them together, gets everybody to work together. She immediately is like, transport to sickbay, can't do that. Let's find she takes charge. She stops them from fighting, and all of them, as they're working sort of separately doing their thing, over the course of that scene, and then probably most of the rest of the episode, they actually start working together.
Yeah. They have to give us a reason why this disparate group of cadets are the people we're going to care about. Because, the school has hundreds of cadets, so, but you can't, they're not all going to be main characters. And they put them through this trial by fire where they kind of were almost forced to be friends. And I thought it was fun the way Jaden met Caleb, because Thok made Jaden put his bag on Caleb's back. Well, because Caleb's got the biggest chip on his shoulder. He doesn't really want to be there. And it takes someone like Thok to put him in his place, as it were.
Well, so this also ties into what I was saying before about, will there be a softening? So when I first watched it, I was definitely very put off by the whole, like, do push-ups and calling him an idiot and having this physical discipline, because I always thought that was very like gross, outdated stuff and very non-Starfleet and very non-Federation. But I do think we're going to see, I believe, and I haven't seen this, I've seen more episodes than you, but I haven't seen this yet. Like, I do think there will be maybe a recognition that that's not the best way to deal with these kids. But there seems to be a consensus that he needed it in that moment. And there was certainly that in the audience response at the screening. They all laughed and thought that it was funny when that happened. I think the feeling there was like, this kid needs to be told what to do, whereas my reaction was very different. And there were a couple of other moments too where I thought, like when the doctor is seeing Caleb and he's got these weird parasites or whatever he has, he doesn't take a moment to think, wow, maybe this kid grew up somewhere really shitty. Like there isn't that moment. And so I don't know if that's all on purpose and we'll see a shift, or it's all on purpose and it'll stay the same, or it's not on purpose and they don't see that as harsh. I don't know.
Captain Anke is the only one who sees that in Caleb. Everyone else just sees a cadet who doesn't fit in. She sees the potential in him.
But the doctor should see any patient who walks up to him and has something like that, and he doesn't know that person. You would think that after all this time, he would understand that some people have illnesses because of poverty, strife, whatever. Like, he wouldn't be like, malnutrition, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you eat something? Like, you wouldn't say that to somebody. So it felt, it just made me wonder. Again, there were various moments throughout that were like that.
Well, there's something, I mean, at one level, they're just having fun with Picardo and the doctor to just joke around. But I think the more interesting dynamic is with the doctor and Sam. So Sam is 2 months old. As a
4 months old.
4 months old. Sorry. Okay. She's extremely old.
She has double the amount of time you thought.
She's very young, very energetic, very enthusiastic. And he's 800 and something years old, and she could be more excited to meet him. Obviously, a hero of hers. And I thought it was really interesting how he played it, or they directed it, where when he first sees her, because as you know, if you remember back on Voyager, he was super excited whenever they met a new photonic.
Yeah.
Even
betraying his ship for them. Yeah.
Yeah. So when he saw, he immediately knew this is the photonic cadet. But then part of him shut that down. If you notice, there's this, like, look at his face. It's some good acting by Bob where he's like excited, but then he kind of puts up this wall.
I asked him about that on the red carpet.
Right.
When I interviewed him, and he likened it to, and it was a funny comparison, to an overzealous fan. Like Star Trek fan. Because he said, he goes, I love the fans and they want to talk and that's great. But sometimes it's too much. It was too much. But I'm looking forward to seeing more scenes with these two, because they definitely have good chemistry and there's a lot going on in their interactions. And they're both doing strong background faces, responses, gestures, looks, things like that.
Now, Bob also in, I think, your junket interview with him, also on TrekMovie.com.
This great website I've heard of.
It's fantastic. Said something about season 2, and he wouldn't get specific, saying that the Doctor forms a relationship with one cadet. Like there's a...
He said 2 cadets, a female cadet and a male cadet.
It's quite possible, we could be wrong, that he ends up mentoring her in the end, that eventually she breaks through this barrier.
Oh, yeah, she has to be the female cadet. She has to be.
Yeah. Caleb's probably the other one. Because Caleb, we got little pieces of all of them, but this is the Caleb show. This show's all about Caleb.
Yep.
He has the most backstory. I mean, he gets a flashback. There's a young version of him in this episode.
And he's tied into everything that's going on.
Right. He's tied to New Spraka. He's tied to Ake. He's our POV character, I guess. Even though he's kind of
Holly. I think Ake is our POV character. I think we're seeing mostly through her eyes. And we're looking at him a little bit from outside.
But if you were a 20-year-old watching the show, you might be looking at him as your POV character.
Yeah, or you're picking the one that you like the most.
Right. Yeah. Sam is the ultimate outsider in herself, and everything's new to her, and so you could see some people, just like some people would watch The Next Generation and they would feel like Data, because Data, has a certain tendencies to him. Same with Spock.
Yep.
Pick your own POV character, I guess.
Exactly.
There's plenty on display.
Choose your own adventure, as they say.
Right. I'm so jaded. I'm more of a Commander Reno, I guess, at this point. But I don't know who my POV character is.
Well, we haven't seen her yet, so
we know she's somewhere in the background.
She's lurking.
We met bridge officers. I can't remember any of their names. I mean,
No.
I know some of their names, but but at least they had names, which was nice.
They had names, and I liked it. Told you a lot about her, that when she met them all, she knew all of that. She'd done her studying, which we'd seen her doing, and then she's like, I've read your files, I know your names. So it wasn't like, tell me who you are.
Yeah. So we've talked about Sam. We've talked a bit about Genesis. Darum comes in hot. He's got a posse. He's a bro. He's a frat boy. That scene
was really good with the binoculars or whatever they were. Like, that was again, so revealing of character, but in a scene where something was happening. And I think the biggest lesson they learned from, let's say, Discovery specifically, and occasionally Picard, was you don't have to stop doing things to have characters have meaningful interactions and to teach us about them. Because that used to drive us crazy. You'd be like, it's okay, we have 8 minutes to figure this out, and then they'd spend 2 minutes discussing some personal issue, and you'd be like, what the hell? And here, I mean, this wasn't an important scene in terms of nobody was in danger, whatever, but you're like, oh, so this damn guy is a jerk. He's also used to having a posse, and he's used to being a bully. And then we learn Jaden is a pacifist because he doesn't immediately get in the guy's face. We've learned that Genesis is not impressed by this behavior and thinks it's gross and silly. And then we've learned that Caleb is a good guy and is going to do something despite whatever's going on with him. When he has a moment to do something for somebody else that's the right thing, he does it. So everything in a very typical school relatable scene. And we've got a whole bunch going on with all of these characters. That is I think, one of the biggest lessons they've learned from their whole tenure.
There's a couple things from that. One is I think it only works because they're setting up arcs, and we've already seen how Darren may be a jerk, but he's also heroic. He's basically sacrificed himself to save the ship. And the only reason he survived is because Genesis is so smart and she was able to get the EMH. And then he said his other famous line, please state the nature of the medical emergency. Yeah. You knew that was coming. And you can't help but like a guy who did what he did. I thought that worked. But the other issue with that scene that I think a lot of fans are going to have is the language. They're calling each other bitch and asshole, and it's very contemporary. And, as I wrote in my review, we shouldn't expect them to all talk like Jean-Luc Picard because they're not even cadets yet, really. But it's going to be jarring for some people to hear that. I know it was the first time I watched the show, and then I kind of got used to it.
It was jarring for people when Discovery did it, and this has turned the level up much higher. But whenever Discovery did it, people were like, what the hell? So I got used to it. And it only occasionally takes me out, but some of the things don't. So, but here's my question about that scene that has nothing to do with language, which is, so Genesis gets the doctor to show up and help her with the authorization code. By the way, I loved that she had already memorized Thok's code and tried to use it. Again, this is my girl. She's going to be the captain because she has a comfort and an ease and a knowing way that is beyond her years, in my opinion, because she seems to know what's going on and she's very comfortable. But anyway, so the doctor pops in, I assume because he's a hologram, so he can just pop in, right?
Well, he showed that earlier. There was like elevated levels when they were about to start a fight, and he just randomly shows up, you know.
Right. So he pops in, and then she explains what's going on. They realize the console she needs to go to is far away. Why didn't he just pop over to that console? Because the transporters were down, so she had to run. All he had to do was offer. She could have said, you need to pop over there, and then he could go, the holo emitters there are broken. You know, something.
Right. That's what I was thinking, is that there was a reason. I mean, the ship was messed up. I mean, that was the whole point of Darren going out on the hull, is that the ship was basically screwed because the programmable matter had disabled everything. Yeah. And Caleb, I mean, what we've learned is Caleb is a genius hacker. So he could hack anything. He hacked the comm system, which is why the bad guys attacked. Because they heard his really sad message to his mom.
And then played it for everyone on the whole ship. That was so horrible.
Poor guy. So he wants his mommy, you know, fair enough.
I was going to say, I want mine too.
And we all do.
Yeah.
I thought that was all fun, you know, and I liked how Holly was still, Captain Ake was still involved. So, and in fact, there was the moment where she says, you need to trust me and follow some rules, you know, because like, well, I could do it, you know, and the same thing happened with Sam, where he was trying to hack, and Sam's like, I'm a computer.
Faster at you. Yeah, I'm faster at this than you are. Yeah.
I like how she's got little abilities, like she lit up the hallway, you know, stuff we never saw the doctor do, because the doctor's a hologram. We don't really know how her hologram works. Like, where's it emanating from?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about her.
Yeah. Where is Sam? What is physically Sam, you know? Mm-hmm. But she has abilities, which is cool, even though she's super awkward.
And I also liked when they're like, who's got a flashlight, whatever. And then she lights up the whole corridor, and then she just goes, hi. And Caleb goes, hi. Like this. It was a nice, cute little moment. And it was his first sort of real smile, I think, in the episode. Yeah.
The other thing that I think we could talk about more now is Captain Ake in general. I mean, Holly Hunter is just amazing, and I know you're a big fan of hers, but she's carrying so much of this episode because she has to do so many different things. She has to be this nurturing mother figure. She has to be a commander. She has to show different versions of herself in the past and the present and do emotional stuff. And I think she's fantastic, but she's not, you know, your father's captain, you know.
She's not your grandmother's captain, that's for sure.
Which is appropriate for this show. I remember when Holly Hunter was announced, and I thought it was interesting wording where she was announced as the captain and chancellor. And this is before they revealed that the ship was also the school and the school was also the ship.
Mm-hmm.
But it was clear they knew that there's a duality to her character that's different than just saying Jason Isaacs is playing the captain of the ship, you know, when that was announced way back.
He had some duality too, as I recall.
Well, that showed up later. So this is one thing where, unlike the language with the kids, I clocked it, but I liked it, even though everything, the way she sits in the chair, which is obviously way too big for her. Why doesn't she just ask them to make her a smaller chair? But that's fine. To her, it's a love seat, basically. It's
right. And also, I mean, that's the thing about the captain's chair is the captain isn't the only person who sits in it.
True enough.
There are so many times where someone else has to sit in that chair. And I feel like that started as perhaps like a production choice too, right? Because she is a tiny person and you need a chair that other people can sit in. So, and I imagine the expense of having a programmable matter chair that would completely adjust size depending on who was in it.
Well, I mean, that is likely. I mean, it did actually. It did lower in height for her.
But I can lower my chair. So it's not, I mean, that would have actually fit well in the show, but would be a lot for a production budget.
No, I suspect that by season 2, we're not seeing little dot robots flying around as much.
Yeah.
They and all that stuff, so you need to be realistic. From what Tunde told you, it sounds like they're not going to, there are AR walls within the set, but they're not using the third party expensive AR wall that they used to do and still do with Strange New Worlds. I suspect we'll be seeing it in season 4 and 5 as well. And Discovery was the first one to do it. So they even though they're spending a ton of money, you could see where they're also trying to save money. None of the chairs float. I mean, they have
remember that.
they have Delta symbols on them. Like, you really
Delta
need
symbols everywhere.
everywhere.
It's insane. I mean, I'm really enjoying this show a lot, and I feel like it's very refreshing. But the design choices bother me just as much as they always have. We've talked about it, the neon and the glowing. I feel like everything looks like either a shopping mall or a bar or a party space, and none of it looks like a workspace.
I think that they should have toned down the deltas within Ake's office.
They're crazy there.
But because it's this like beautiful Frank Lloyd Wright, it's got the fake fireplace. I assume it's a fake fireplace, and all of her knickknacks, and you could note, the Enterprise D is there, of course, and some other stuff. But the tiles are little Starfleet tiles, and the windows are little Starfleet windows, and it just didn't seem to fit her,
and they said they had her quarters like refit for her. She sent specifications.
Yes.
So I don't think she asked for all the deltas.
I think the ship added that. The ship, which has, Britt Marling is the voice of the ship, and she has no personality. So we'll see if that develops into a character like Zora, but I don't think there is much going on there.
I don't think it'll be like Zora, but I liked Holly thanked the computer, and the computer would say no problem or whatever it said, happy to help you, whatever. So, and just a little spoiler that doesn't matter, but she talks to the dots too later.
Yeah. I mean, if you notice, this has surprised me. So I always look at the credits, right? And the dots are credited. They do have these little voices. They're almost like minions.
Mm-hmm.
They
reminded me of the Minions. Yeah.
So the dots, I guess, have some kind of personality. It'd be, maybe we'll see. They did give them I think Michael Giacchino did the short treks where there was like a dot that was a character, right? Yeah. So maybe we'll see a dot as a character. And
a dot saved them on Discovery season 3. I think it was. And it's an interesting choice to have her talk to them and be nice, because that's actually a conversation that's going on now as people are using ChatGPT. My husband is a programmer and has been asking people, when you use it, do you say please and thank you? Like, he's just been asking people because it's an interesting choice. And I was like, I think it's such a good habit to have that, sure, use it for the dots, use it for the computer. Just say thank you. It's just good.
One of my bigger disappointments in this is that the Stephen Colbert announcements were just
not
fine.
That funny.
They weren't. Yeah, they're just there. I mean, I love hearing his voice, but I was hoping you just want something more, especially if it's because it's subtly in the background. It's not like they stop and listen to it. Like, there's things happening. So you almost have to listen closely, when he's talking about hanger, or whatever. So
yeah, Hangar's there's a perfect example of language that's gonna bother people.
Yeah. So what a talent to waste on, I wonder, because he's a big improviser, obviously. And you talked, apparently Bob and Laura Thok, who's played by Gina Yashere, is a comedian, and she does some actual ad-libbing. We don't know what got into the show.
Yeah.
But there were very funny moments in this episode.
Oh yeah.
Not just for fans.
Just good spark moments that I really like, just between characters.
It's hard getting the balance, I mean, they did cram a lot into this. I wonder, could they have pulled this off in 45 minutes? They did have to go to 1 hour 15. Could they have done a 45-minute tight pilot episode? Because I think
this was tight. The only things to me that weren't tight were my specific pet peeves, punching scenes, but everything else I thought was tight because you also want to let things breathe just a little bit. I thought the pacing was spot on.
Yeah, no, Alex directed this, and I think he did a pretty good job. This is probably one of his better jobs as a director. And if you're listening to this podcast now and if you've watched the first episode, I would recommend do not jump right into the second episode. We're not going to release our podcast review of the second episode until Saturday. So now both written episode reviews are up on the site. They release them simultaneously just because that's what Paramount does. But I feel like the first episode is long enough and big enough and different enough from the second episode that they didn't need to do that.
Right. Whereas I kind of wished that Discovery, because the pilot is so different, that first episode is so different and not indicative of what the show's going to be.
Yeah.
That would have benefited from showing episode three right away.
Didn't they? Well, I guess the Vulcan Hello was a two-parter, so they did technically, although I think the way it worked, I mean, this has been a while, is the first part aired on CBS and the second part was only on CBS All Access.
Oh God, I don't remember.
God, it was so long ago.
I know, it was so long ago.
Way back.
But they needed episode 3. If someone said to me, "Oh, I want to watch Discovery," I would say, skip the first pilot, skip those 2 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 episodes were a prequel movie to the actual show, which started in episode 3. By the way, speaking of Discovery, Vance was not the only, so Oded Fair was not the only Discovery actor to appear in this episode, but you have to look really closely to find the other one.
Well, I don't think you have to look that closely.
Okay. Well,
he looks exactly the same.
So we're talking about David Benjamin Tomlinson, who played one of our favorite characters, which was Linus on Discovery, the Saurian. Now, if you do notice him, I bet a lot of people are going to assume, so he was the guy that when you came in was kind of dealing with the cadets and assigning them to wherever, pointing them to the portal where they were magically given a uniform or whatever. That's not Linus. That is just another Saurian.
Another Starfleet officer, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of those portals, how come Caleb's the only one who got the regulation haircut?
Yeah, because he said he didn't want one, and the AI was smart enough to give him one.
Because I'm like, Jaden has long hair, Genesis has long hair, Sam, I mean, she wouldn't need a haircut, but she's got hair, and none of it was regulation hair.
Well, I guess everything is regulation hair except Caleb's hair.
Except Caleb's hair. I mean, that was a cool use of tech that I enjoyed, was walking through that portal where they're like, whoa.
Right.
It was fun.
That's the thing of, okay, well, if we've got this magical technology, let's do interesting things with it.
Yes, yeah.
As opposed to just stupid things with it.
I mean, I'm not sure how much sense that made, but I liked it anyway. I also think there were some interesting things in the way that it looked and felt. I like the score. I'm not hooked on the theme. I don't understand what the theme is yet. I couldn't hum it for you, but the score is good. But also, if you look at the contrast between, we see Caleb and his being taken to this penal colony, it's all dark and gray and scary, and this contrast of Ake on Bajor, where it's bright and sunny and lively. and she's very relaxed and she's just having a good time with these kids. And that's also sending a message that like, well, she's had guilt, but she's also doing fine.
Yeah.
And he's suffering.
Yeah.
And he's looking for his mom. I mean, that's the reason he doesn't get in trouble because he's a troublemaker. He's in trouble because he's trying to find his mom. And if he gets himself arrested so that he can go find his mom, thinking she might be in one of these places. That's the sense I got.
Yeah. Now, we got our first hint about mom when Noose Braca confronts Caleb and they, in the middle of the punchy stuff, he says, your mom would be so disappointed. He talks about her like they're friends almost, but he's probably just messing with him, but he drops some hints about mom. And it makes you wonder, is she still working for him somehow? Is she one of the pirates?
Well, we know they broke out together somehow, right?
Well, do we? We know, yeah, I get the sense that, yeah, that's possibly true. But they were in separate prisons. Right. So.
All right. He was in a real prison and she was in like a
rehabilitation.
Yeah.
But I get the sense that he knows where she is and they're in contact. That's one of the first mysteries of the show is the mom mystery and what's her deal? Where is she? Why isn't she trying to find him? Why is Noose Braca care about this ship at all?
Right. There's obviously more going on than just, wanting a warp core. Yeah. Also, he says this to Nala and he also says it to Caleb about making Caleb be part of Starfleet is a disservice, is bad. Basically, like says that it's punishment. It's a horrible thing after what they've done to Caleb.
One of the things they did in the flashback scene is it was pretty bleak at that Federation colony during the burn. It didn't look very Federation or Starfleet because they didn't have lights back during the burn, apparently.
Right. Someone was delivering them and then the ship exploded.
Yeah.
I also thought it made the whole ship is the school thing made a lot of sense in that moment when they use a fake disaster simulation to trick Noose Braca. Because I was like, oh, it's like the Kobayashi Maru. Like they have all these of course they have simulations. Of course they have disaster simulations. It makes total sense if you're training cadets. So that was a nice touch, I thought. Right. And a nice choice to not say we're recreating the Kobayashi Maru again.
Oh, but God.
Right. They didn't do that. They made the right choice, which is, again, why I have such hope for this show, because I feel like they are successfully finding that balance. Like it's a callback that's not a clear callback.
Yeah. I mean, it is a flying building, but there's parts, it still has these teachable, as they said, a teachable moment, the liaison on the bridge.
Did you notice when the liaison said that? Was when they blew up the ship. The pirate ship. So this goes back to the same thing I was saying before about the harshness of everything, which is they're all gleeful when they blow up the ship. They killed a bunch of people. They just killed a bunch of people.
That's true.
Was not unreasonable for them to do given the circumstance, but the way that they were so lighthearted about it, and then a teachable moment, ha ha ha, and then also when Ake wants to beam them all out into space. When, Braca and his people, which again, it's not, yes, you want to beam them, you want to get them the hell out of your ship, but it was so cold. It seemed, that's why I'm wondering if we will see a shift or this is just how they are now.
Yeah, I think hopefully, there are certainly elements of the light and the optimism, but there is a darkness to some of these people for sure.
Yeah.
And that's hard to shake, perhaps, after the burn. What
I think. That's my hope is that this is this is going to evolve over time. Well, and they'll get into the reason of it and it will be important. So we'll see. But I feel like it is. I hope it is.
Hopefully. No, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking for almost an hour about one episode. Do you have any nitpicks? I mean, I guess we've kind of done some nitpicks already.
I have some. I do have some. I was here. I was mad that nobody did say to Genesis at the end, by the way, Genesis, you kind of saved everybody. So good job.
That's
because
true.
if she hadn't done what she did, none of that would have happened.
Yes. They didn't have a ceremony where they gave everyone commendations, Star Wars style. The closest they got was Caleb should have been thrown out, but was given a second chance,
right?
Because he saved the ship.
But a little acknowledgement for other cadets would have been nice. Like, you guys all came together. I would have liked that. And then my other nitpick is, if there's like a hologram, like if there's whatever they call them, hologram comms, like how she was talking to Braca when he was not really there.
Yeah.
And then she goes, and she blows, and is that how you get rid of a hologram?
I mean, the AI is taking context clues, obviously.
Yeah. So those would be my nitpicks. And then I had some questions. Let's see if we've covered them all. Hold on. Okay, I have a few. Maybe you always are good with headcanon.
Okay.
So I'm going to throw some questions at you.
Hit me.
One, that device, the thing they had around Noose Braca's neck.
Yeah.
That seemed also very un-Federation.
Sure. It was a shock collar so that if he escaped, they could probably zap him. I mean, it's just kind of...
Couldn't they just point a weapon at him?
Well, they didn't have a lot of personnel there. And he's really... I mean, we saw how strong he was when he referred to himself as a Klingerite.
Yes.
Throwing Caleb around. Of course, Laura Thok, when she kind of ribbed Jaden, he flew across the room.
Yeah.
So she's pretty strong too. So yeah, they needed to restrain him.
It seems weirdly cruel. And then my one other question that we haven't talked about is, I was a little confused. So when little baby cutie little fish Caleb, he stole her comm badge. And then what did he do?
He used it to open a hatch to get outside. Maybe because he could have been tracked by carrying it. So that's why he left it behind probably. But he just used it to get out the door. And since there was like a sandstorm or dust, whatever, some kind of storm coming in, they couldn't catch up with him. And she's been looking for him for 15 years ever since.
I was confused, where did he go? But I guess I forgot that they were just on a bad planet somewhere.
The subtly heartbreaking thing and the smart thing is all he had left in the world then was his little robot teddy bear. And he used that robot and sacrificed the only thing he had connecting him to his mom and his past. When he walked out that door, he had nothing.
Yeah.
And he used the bear to get to escape because his mom said, don't trust them. And so he didn't. Mm-hmm. Even though he was pretending like he did, which showed that kid was pretty smart to begin with. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a great scene.
And I loved Nala's face, when he hugs her, and at first she's surprised, and then after a beat, she really feels, you can see the weight of it, the guilt, the sorrow, the compassion, all of it in her face.
This isn't really a nitpick, but it's an observation, let's just say. So,
is it a crabby observation? Because that makes it a nitpick.
No. So the episode, as many things in Star Trek, always talks about San Francisco. San Francisco is their destination on Earth, and they played the song, the cover of the famous San Francisco song, which was kind of a big moving moment. I thought that was a good cover. I don't know. What did you think of that?
I mean, I thought it was an interesting cover. It's Rufus Wainwright. But it was fairly, it was definitely matched the original, sounded a lot like the original. It was a strange choice of a song. I felt like they chose it because I wasn't sure if they chose it just because it said San Francisco in it or if they really were thinking about when the song was created and the purpose of it and the meaning of it, because it was specifically about getting people to not be afraid to come to San Francisco because of all the hippies.
Yeah, I imagine it has a dual meaning.
Yeah.
So my observation, which is sort of a nitpick, is that everyone talks about San Francisco, but when you see the ship land, it clearly lands, for those of us who have lived in the Bay Area, in Marin County, which is not San Francisco. It's the north end of the Golden Gate Bridge. That being said, that is right from a canon point of view. So for sure, Starfleet headquarters is in the Presidio. We've seen that in Star Trek: The Motion Picture and pretty much everywhere else. But as established in The Next Generation and also followed up on some of the other shows, the Academy has always been at the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge, which is, kind of the Sausalito, or actually a bit south of Sausalito, in Horseshoe Bay area. So anyway, I was kind of glad because in the Kelvin movies, which was fine because it's a different timeline, the Academy was in the Presidio at the south end of the bridge. Anyway, I'll stop. This is geographic nitpicking that only Bay Area aficionados will care about. But I was kind of glad to see that they got it right, as it were.
Well, that's good. So it's a nitpick with a happy ending.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really a nitpick. As I said, it's an observation.
There you go.
Do you have any other nitpicks or anything? Or
Sorry, I also want to talk about Darum for a minute. First of all, I loved the gorgeous shot when he's this little tiny guy on top of the big ship. It was just beautiful. Yeah. It looked so good. But when he changed appearance, which I thought was a really nice scene, and it's sort of the first time we see vulnerability, I felt like when he first asking her to turn her back, but even just suddenly he looked sweeter. Like his face softened and he looked sweeter. And when I asked him about you're disguised as, you seem to be, you have like a human outer skin or whatever. And I asked him what was going on with that at the junket. He said something really interesting. So he said that he asked Alex Kurtzman what it felt like to be in his human skin. And he said, being in his human skin is like holding his breath. And so he said that he's always putting on a front and he's putting on a performance when he's wearing that human skin. And I think he indicated that there are, and I haven't seen this yet in any episode, but I think he indicated that won't be the only form, like human isn't the only form he can take.
But it is curious. I mean, it's wall-to-wall aliens in Starfleet Academy. There's no reason for him.
Right.
Well, there's no clear reason for him not to just be, unless
he's doing it for a reason.
Well, but we got no indication, like when he does his kind of fish natural, like he can still probably breathe, right? Like he was breathing on the ship. It was just that he could go outside. So there's no biological reason that we know. Right. It could be a psychological reason or a cultural reason. There's some.
I think it's going to be one of those that's going to be a really interesting thing to explore.
Well, he didn't want her to look at him. Like it could be that his society has some kind of prohibition where you're not supposed to share your natural look while you're, with other aliens.
Or at least while you're transforming, because he was fine with her turning around afterwards. Yeah. He's like, you can turn around now. It was just the transition he didn't want her to see.
There's something, I mean, there's obviously layers to this character. He isn't just a bro, even though he is definitely a bro. I mean, he's as bro as you could bro. But,
and a child of privilege, which is a rarity among this era and generation.
Yeah, each one of them has a clear different background. Genesis is the way she is because her father's an admiral. Sam is the way she is because she's 4 months old.
She's 4 months old.
Jaden is the way he is because he's a Klingon, but he's not your average Klingon.
He's a very unusual Klingon. Yeah, I loved his line where she's Laura Thok is talking to him about his valiant death, and he just wants to live a valiant life. Oh. And I thought that was great. Again, little character moments, beautifully done. One after another. Really nicely done.
So that was it for Kids These Days. We're not going to do bits this week, but another kind of Academy thing I want to point to. Gina Yashere had a fun segment on CNN, and we'll put a link to that in our show notes. And she just talked about how, Star Trek has always been a progressive show, and it kind of picks up on some of the troll stuff we were talking about earlier before we did. Because there's been some high-profile trolls out there.
Yeah, some high-profile nonsense, shitty nonsense from people who really need to go find better things to do.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to record and put out the review of the second episode, which is titled Beta Test, which dropped on Thursday, and our podcast for that will be available exactly a day after this podcast.
There you go. 2 podcasts in 1 week.
And then we'll probably put out a supplemental with the audio of all of your interviews. And then next week we'll have on Friday the review of episode 3, which probably has another silly title, right?
I forget, but it's either silly or Latin.
Okay. We're going to be here every week talking about 9 more episodes of Starfleet Academy.
Show. And I do feel like this is the right Trek for our times. I agree with them that this is the right time. And I think of all the live action shows, this is of this era specifically, this is the strongest opener of any of them by a long shot.
If we're talking live action
specifically, and this era of Trek.
Yeah, then yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely. See you next week.
See ya.